to be episode 3 of the Legendary You series. I'm doing this one black screen because, like some of the other videos I've done for other topics, it feels more important to pull your hearing in. And also, sometimes it can be fun actually it can be kind of meditative to look at a dark screen, or you can use it for scrying. So feel free, and as a spirit stilling, feel free to use that whenever you encounter an intuitive or a reader or anybody doing videos this way. Now, I've been marinating in a thread about how we nourish our vibrations. And it's funny because for a long time well, I'm still not really a parent or a person that says like, oh, the video games ruined the kids or the music did this and that. Like, I don't think that's quite the way it works, but something that I do practice myself and teach my own kids is to be cautious of what you nourish your mind with in terms of music and movies and games and things like that, because we have mirror neurons, and as a part of empathy, we tend to take on that which we watch, that which we read, that which we listen to, right? And so I do very much believe, like, I'm by far against, I'm far from against, like, scary stuff, but I have developed a practice of just not going towards it. I used to be very, very much into all of it. It was very fun. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was one of my favorite movies for a long time, the old one and the new one. And really got into it. But once I started getting away from CSI and crime shows and murder mysteries and horror stuff and things like that, I noticed my vibration naturally lifted all on its own. And the more that I have cultivated a lifestyle where I don't typically watch too much TV, I have some shows that I will watch from time to time, but typically if I'm watching something or listening to something, it's either music because I just absolutely love music and I'm careful about the kind of music that I listen to also, um, or it's something like educational or something that spirits called me to specifically, either to come back and talk to you guys too, or for my own situation, right? And like, I mean, nobody has to do these things, but I'm telling you, like, when you don't have to be scared of what you watch or what you listen to, but I mean, it's similar to what many of us tarot readers have talked before about. Be careful about how many readings you're listening to. Be careful of how many people you're listening to, things like that. Because some people, like, they're tuning in mostly to karmic energies, and if you listen to them, you're then gonna dial into those karmic energies. And even if you're not the karmic, so to speak, you might tap into those energies. You might change your own experience simply from that empathetic mirror neuron response, right? So, I mean, personally, I've started getting to the point to where, like, I mean, I already very much limit myself on who I will watch. And very careful because I want to cultivate certain vibrations. I want to feel good. I want to feel grateful in most situations. I want to stay on the path of my own heart that says that everybody is doing the best that they can with what they know how in this moment, and they're all actually acting out of love. It's just when we're wounded, when we're still healing, when we have traumas to make it through, there are various lenses that make us feel like we have to act out of survival. And that's usually when other people get hurt, right? But I want to stay in that vibration mostly. Like, the great thing is, like, that's kind of its own, like, pocket universe there, like the universe of unconditional love, right? And that's that's where spirit has the most fun, at least to my experience, the Abraham Hicks experience, the Tony Robbins experience, the Eckhart Tolle's experience, Sadhguru's experience, so many, right? In the space of unconditional love. It's a very nourishing energy for any spirit, any soul, any mind, any heart, any body, right? And the funny thing is like when you talk about like nourishing your vibration, if your goal is to be in a place of unconditional love, that doesn't and that does not mean I will come for you if you think that that somehow equates to codependence. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same thing. Unconditional love does not mean no boundaries. It does not mean I will forever throw myself on all these swords just so that I can love you. No. Unconditional love is something that you live in your heart no matter what you need to do on the outside. And because it comes from the inside, it changes the way that you respond on the outside. And it helps you see where your own triggers are, where your own shadows are, where your own reflections are, to where the things that you're mad about are very likely things that you are also doing or have done, or, things of that nature. I want to go back to for a second on the readers thing though, because I have a feeling a fair amount of you will either tune in now or later and might be benefited by this. And that, I mean, as my journey has gone on in terms of listening to other readers, I kind of run the gamut between over listening to a whole bunch of people for a whole bunch of different things, and also kind of doing elimination diet kind of stuff to where I like knock it down to the very, most basic that I can think of. Let's say, like when I first did that, it was like 8 readers, and then it was like 5 readers, and then it was like 3. Because some of the readers were either they went absent or they went more into karmic stuff. And like, there's some readers that have gone from like very healing messages that it's not that I look for messages to always be good. Like, I don't want that kind of reality. I like the plot twists. But I definitely avoid readers who talk about narcissists, especially a lot. I avoid readers who over focus on what karmics or third party situations are doing. And I can look at a title and know, I mean, for one thing, if I was supposed to get any information from it, it's usually all in the title, anyways. But I can tell from the title, like if it's talking about betrayal or backstabbing or spell work or, this or that or some sort of drama. I mean, like if nothing else, I'm looking at, does it nourish my soul to know about that stuff? Does it help me manifest what I want? And that's whether it's with my DM or whether it's with friends or whether it's with family or career stuff. Because there's lots of different types of things to listen for. And in all of them, I apply the same thing. It's like, and especially being a Capricorn and a type 8 Enneagram, I've got natural skepticism. And I've had many, many, many years of being right about people being shitty. And I didn't want to live in that place anymore because what you believe is true is true. That's why I, cultivated a different reality. And I'm so much happier in a different reality, and the one where nobody wants to hurt you on purpose, and and you know that, like you feel secure in that. Doesn't mean you're never going to get hurt, but it's a lot. I mean, even modern psychology says that like emotional security, like when you hit kind of a, not a pinnacle of it, but when you're kind of in your sweet spot, when you take very few things personally that other people do, whether good or bad, and you feel comfortable whether when they're winning, and you don't feel like you need to rescue them when they're losing, but you also don't necessarily just not do anything, like, but you don't take personal accountability for other people's crappy behavior. You don't take it super personally if they do something that wasn't thoughtful to you, or even that was intentionally hurtful, because we're humans. One, we're not that complicated, and two, again, what kind of vibration do you want to cultivate? And that's kind of what I'm getting towards, is whether you're listening to tarot readings or astrology or podcasts or audiobooks or watching TV, watching movies, listening to the radio, and also the two other more important things is the people around you, the people that you spend the most time with, and you with you, like you in your own head. Because these are two very important things. I mean, just like we have an empathetic response and we are affected by when, things that we watch and read and think and bring in, we are even more strongly affected by the people that we interact with. And those that we interact more and more often, we become a little more like them and they become a little more like us. And there's even some indigenous tribes that believe that, way back before we had these concrete jungles and digital technology and stuff, believed that, if you were just passing by somebody across from a meadow and you even just, you know, barely noticed each other, that the minute that you looked at each other, you were forever changed. And it may not have been an incredible way, or it may have been an incredible way. You don't really know. And sometimes it's similar too when you're interacting with people. You don't always know how interacting with them is going to change your experience, and likewise, how their experience will be changed by interacting with you. But it's important to find a balance between, like, you don't want to be so closed off from people that you don't go out and you don't talk to anybody. And I mean, if you've been through a lot of emotional pain, and or you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're constantly betrayed by people and stuff like that, that's where it's important to go back and look at, what are you nourishing your vibration with, you know? Do you feel like you're broken, or not chosen, or not doing it right? Do you feel like other people can be totally broken or sick, or, things like that? Like, what are you nourishing your vibration with? What are you putting in there? And, if you spend a lot of time reading about what people do wrong, or even, I've run the gamut in terms of politics too. So if you fall down that hole, that's a lot about people suffering. If you're learning about people suffering, you're going to bring yourself into a suffering state, unless you've gotten to such a level of enlightenment that you can consider other people's suffering and your own and not have a visceral response to it. There are people that get there. I think most of them are monks, but there are people that get there. You can get there too if you want. But I definitely highly recommend that if you've not yet gotten to a point to where you feel inner peace, like peace of mind and peace of heart, when you are if you can get to a state where you just feel peace of mind and peace of heart without anything else, then you can go into other situations and interact with people, and go through the rainbow of ups and downs and things like that, and not be quite as affected. I think when you get to a place to where you can be comfortable with peace of mind, when it's just you, and you've done the lady of the lake test, and like fought with yourself and then learned to love yourself and things like that, when you can speak kindly to yourself, even when nobody's there to affirm you or give you affection or tell you you're good or that you're not crazy or things like that, when you can get to that point, then when you go and you interact with other people, and even if they bring in something that feels really, really good, you're not going to have such a huge, like, need to attach to that energy. It's going to feel pleasant. You're going to like it. You're going to feel deserving of it. And you'll probably get a heck of a lot more of it, quite simply because you're not greedily trying to hold on to it and going, wait, 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 I didn't get enough of that, or I don't get enough of that in my life, or things like that. There's another question. How are you nourishing yourself in terms of your thoughts about lack? Like, do you feel like you've got great abundance in your life, whether you're like in a tent in the woods by yourself, or you're living in a house full of people, or you're by yourself in some small apartment, or whatever it is? Do you feel grateful and joyful about what you have, what's around you? If you do, then there's not much that's going to be able to shake you, in terms of, like, once you get into interacting, um, you know into doing business, glowing up, mission work, we're talking twin flame stuff, like you're going to be much more unshakable when your source of gratitude and joy comes from within rather than from external sources, you know? And that's part of why it's important to be careful, you know? You are who you hang out with. And if you have people around you that are like, let's say they're in what we've been calling gotcha energy, like looking for deceptions, looking for ways that people might hurt you or might be trying to trick you or might be getting into trouble or might need rescuing or things of that nature, you know, or where there might be bumps in the road ahead. It's a human thing. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you find that you are observing yourself in that energy, you could probably look around and see that other people that you're consistently hanging out with are also in that energy. Now, you know, at that point, look at how are you nourishing your vibration, you know, and how can you nourish, how can you, you know, how can you get yourself out of like gotcha energy and things like that and get into gratitude energy, get into unconditional loving energy where you're like, you're not looking for anybody doing anything, you're not holding on to super big expectations and you're comfortable with the flow of things, you know, and sometimes that requires speaking up and saying, hey, I don't want to go onto this thread. I don't want to talk about these things and seeing where that goes. And sometimes that does require pulling back, letting people be in their own vibration as they want to be, not worrying about that in there, but knowing that you want to nourish your vibration. If you're willing to cut out scary TV shows and things like that and listen to music that feels you, that doesn't bring you back to a place of heartache or heartbreak or things like that, if you're willing to change your diet to lose weight or things like that, then why wouldn't you be willing to look at the people around you? And if they're not going in the direction you want to go, or they're a consistent source of bringing you back to, you know, dragon hunting or gotcha energy or things like that, then why wouldn't you also say, okay, well, this is not good. This is not great for me. It's not good for me. I'm going to go another direction. Or I'm going to, you know, pull back in and see what I'm doing. You know, like let's do process of elimination with the people around me too. Let's look at, you know, and then you can have that space where you can sit back and examine your own thoughts. Because I guarantee you, like it's always, anytime you're triggered by something that anybody else does, you're really looking at how you're doing it too. Either you started it or you retaliated or you were doing it to somebody else. This is one of the things I kind of find amusing with us humans and karma. Like, I think we always expect it to be one to one. Like, if I do something mean to you, you do something mean to me. If I do something good for you, you do something good for me. But that's transactions. That's not karma necessarily. I think I think there's many times that it lines up that way, but it's more of a pay it forward kind of energy. You know, if you do something shitty to me, it's more likely that I'm going to do something shitty to somebody else, and then they're going to do something shitty to somebody else, and eventually it'll work its way around and kick the first person's butt about it. You know, like, or, you know, likewise, you know, if you do something crappy to me, then someone comes around and does something crappy to you. That would be a shorter version of it. Or you do something good for me, then someone else comes in and does something good for you. And that's not even all of karma. That's like one small piece of it, and just more so as we colloquially understand it to be. But it is important to step back and look at, like, what am I nourishing my vibration with? You know, do I feel like I have friends around me that I can be genuine and honest around? Do I feel like I can talk with my family and feel held in the space that I am? Do I feel like I can be honest and authentic? Do I feel like if I decide I don't want to talk about things, that I can be held in a loving space? If I want to reinvent myself entirely, do I feel like I am in a safe space to do that? If I want to withdraw and just, you know, check out for a little bit, am I in a safe, secure place to do that? If I, you know, if I feel uh, what is it? Well, you know, I mean, there's just so many things. Like, you know, do you feel like the people around you are contributing to what you want to manifest. That could be, and let's take a couple of bigger examples that lots of people have done, but it's certainly not the majority. But plenty of people have manifested their millions of dollars. Plenty of people have manifested their twin flame unions. Plenty of people have manifested ways to really help the world in really big ways. There are many bigger things that people were able to manifest, and part of the key of it is that they figured out how to nourish their vibrations, like it's like anything in a garden. I mean, if you over fertilize it, you burn it. If you over water it, you drown it. If you don't give it enough of either one, it runs out of nutrients and stuff like that. If you don't keep a handle on the weeds in the garden, then they choke everything out, right? So you got to really look at all things, and I know there's a fair amount of folks who are on either they've been completely alone for a while and feel like they've been constantly fighting other people or being betrayed or things like that, and they've kind of gotten themselves into a kind of an agoraphobic sort of state where they don't want to connect with anybody because of the potential of getting hurt. Um, which if you're one of those folks and you've got a twin flame who's also not reaching out because they don't want to get hurt either. It's the reflection in there. And then there are others who are, they're in various different social situations where they don't feel comfortable talking about their twin flame journey or talking about their business goals or things like that, whether it's with their family or with their friends or anything like that, which I think is partly good in a way because I think it helps us connect with each other. I think that I've connected with a number of people on the twin flame journey. Some of them great, some of them whoa, and some of them like not my vibration. But there's been a lot of fun in it, and the connections would not have been there if not for a certain element that it's not something that I would just necessarily talk about with anybody. I'll be honest about it with anybody, but I also live my life in a way that people already know I'm very eccentric and enigmatic, and like I'm not weirded out by any of that anymore. I was for a while, but I'm not anymore. I don't worry about it. If I find it very amusing, because if we really sat down and looked at the data of it, I'm not that eccentric, nor am I that enigmatic. It's just most people don't really look. What's the word? Was it most people can't see 2 feet in front of their faces or something like that, or you couldn't see it if it bit you in the nose. I don't know. I feel like my old one of my grandpas used to say something like that. Like, it feels so derogatory. I don't even go this way, and I'm thinking the phrase like, "What's it, you couldn't find your way out of a wet paper bag," kind of thing. Like, and I don't feel like people are really like that. It's more that they get so wrapped up in the day to day stuff and what everybody else might think if they did something a little bit different, or if they took a risk or a leap of faith, or changed their minds, or things of that nature. Um, but really, I mean, think about it. Like, if you really want to change your circumstances, you want to rewrite your stars, you want to have the person have the amount in your bank account, you want to have the security around you, you want to have, basically, you want to manifest a reality around you that so far by all of your data does not exist yet. Or if it does exist, it's not around you. And if you want to be able to do something that legendary, you have to be willing to look at everything around you and consider, like, will this help me get what I want? Will this help me get what I want in a good way? Will this help me help other people? Will this help me do my mission work? Will this help people? Will this bit of my story be helpful to me and helping other people? Look at it from many lenses, like, and also, like, just look at it, is this draining me? Is this relationship I'm in draining me? Even if it looks good on the outside, even if they're saying all the right words, even if it feels in the moment when you're connecting with them like it's absolutely wonderful, when you are done with those conversations and those interactions, do you feel drained or energized? I know we're getting a little bit into the introvert extrovert thing too, but just in terms of energy, work in general, and empathy of that, you can tell your body has all sorts of natural built-in mechanisms to tell you all sorts of things that you might not be able to see with your eyes. but you can feel them with your body, you can sense them with your intuition, you can know them with your intellect, right? And so, if you look at all things across the board, and when you think about it, like, is that burrito nourishing my body? Is it really? Like, is it a homemade one with all the healthy ingredients in it? And, not that you have to go ritzy, but just like, it's not about how much you pay for something. It's about what's the quality of it. Like, when I can afford to, I really like to go to farmers markets and meet the people who actually grew the food and decide, is that a vibration that I want from my food? you know? And it's funny, I was just imagining that there's a few times I've done that on food stamps before, and I was really grateful that somebody got to that point. And to now think about, like, I can't go super often, but I can go every so often, and every so often that I can go to farmers markets now and using my own income and stuff, that every opportunity to do that lifts my vibration. It may not be all the time. I'm not bougie yet. It'll be fun when I am. But, I could be bougie in my mind though, and in my heart. And for me, it's therein shows the shadow work, right? Like, if you feel like going and getting yourself healthy, organic food that's grown by people you like, and you consider that to be more than you're worthy of, then that's where you got to work on that stuff. That's where your money blocks are. That's where your love blocks are. That's where you look at. That's what you're nourishing your vibration with. See? And see that I love that Spirit used me as an example in that one. Like, I worry sometimes about talking about what what I'm starting to make. I'm in a weird middle ground with stuff like that. And then even if I wasn't, like, getting to the place where I'm sustainable and stuff, like, I think about all the homeless people that I've worked with. I think about all the different people I've met in all sorts of, like, volunteer communities. And I think about, like, I mean, it's so funny. Like, I'm literally that one. Like, I used to take the old, when I worked at 7-Eleven, they'd throw out food every day. And I'd be like, fuck that. I didn't even care if I got in trouble. I was like, you can get me in trouble. I'm not throwing this food away. And I'd go find, and drive around anybody who's on the street corner that, hold up a sign for food. Here, would you like this or that? Or a couple things, water, something like that. Just because, but for one thing, it makes me feel good. And for two, like, I don't want to see things go to waste like that when people can get help. Though I think we condition ourselves, though, to feel like unless we have saved the entire world first, we can't start in and eating our own meal. And really, I mean, if you think about it, if you let yourself nourish yourself in good ways, you choose nice things to watch, to nice things to listen to. You're around people who, are open to things and believe you and want to go upward with you, and you nourish yourself with honesty and unconditional love for yourself, and you keep going that direction, then yeah, go to some ritzy farmers markets. Take yourself out on a nice fancy date. Get one or two things of clothing that make you feel a little fancier. It doesn't have to be big. Like, I totally am absolutely a big person in believing in humility. I think, but I do think that any time that we could do something that makes us feel like our vibrations come up, you know, anybody that we interact with along the way is benefited by that. And so are we. And I mean, those ripple effects really, really matter. And so, yeah, picture yourself as having more than enough. Picture nourish your own vibration with regular, healthy thoughts about being in better positions, having more than enough money, having enough money that you can go and share it with people. That you can buy the food at the 7-Eleven to go take it to people around the streets, or you can start up your own charity organization. Like, look at yourself as being in a situation where you have more than enough, rather than looking at the situation and saying, I don't have enough for myself and everybody else, so I won't give enough to myself. No, stop that. Give to yourself first, especially if these are similar to your what thoughts you feel like go through your own mind, then it's very unlikely that your ego is going to grow in such a way that you're going to forget about the people who need help. It's very unlikely. And that's another thing, start nourishing your vibration with thoughts like that. Don't be in a place of lack where you worry that if you get so busy working and glowing up and enjoying your hot girl, hot guy, hot dad, hot mom summer, that you feel like you might forget that there are homeless people in the world who could use some help, or you might forget to go volunteer somewhere to help out less fortunate or animals in need or things like that. Then you're not going to forget that stuff. You'll hit a point where you can do both, or you can find ways to contribute to things. But first, you got to get things right between you and you know? And that starts with looking at how are you nourishing your environment? What are you eating? How much exercise are you getting every day? How many friends do you feel like you can go to for a genuine hug? And you can tell them anything and they're not going to think of you as crazy or weird or sick or broken or any of those things. And even if you don't have any of those friends right now, how do you feel about the potential of them coming into your vibration? Do you feel like that's never going to happen because everybody betrays you? Or do you feel like it'll happen in divine timing when it's right to? Do you feel like it's always got to be from the same person for the rest of your life? Or are you okay with it coming in from one particular human for a while until you're told maybe a time that your paths cross and then coming in from a different person? Likewise, when it comes to giving your love and affection, do you have to have it be the same person all the time? Are you okay with love and affection coming into you and going out of you with different humans? And you could take that as far or not as far as you want. Either way, it's definitely important. Look at your diet, look at your exercise, look at the clothes that you're wearing, look at how you take care of your body. Look at the thoughts that you think on a regular basis, and look at the thoughts that other people share with you. Think about the music and the movies and the games and the things that you bring in. Listen to the things that come out of your own mouth. Journal if you can. You'll see a lot of it there, you know? And as you start to really go through and look at all these different things and you start to release and kind of get, sometimes you got to kind of go a little minimalist in order to get to the point where you know where your bare necessities are. It's one of my favorite karaoke songs. Look for the bare necessities. It's Mother Nature's recipes, right? Get to your bare necessities and figure out you know, what do you need? You could look at diet. What do you need on a caloric basis just to sit there and breathe all day and not have too many calories, you know? And then how much exercise can you do to get over the amount of calories that you take in at that moment? Can you get to yourself to not a temporary diet, but a lifestyle change to a diet that works well for your body? I'm a fan of like I like to look at Eastern medicine and I like to look at some of the I want to say the paleo research and um, I like to look at some of the astrology of things because the more and more I find that that like say my naturopath or somebody medical profession tells me that I should eat certain ways and I find that things work, it usually matches up to what it suggests that a Capricorn of my age should be eating and finding beneficial and worrying about health wise. So, you tell me, like, you don't have to go there, but you might find something useful out of that. Um, you can also look at color therapies and things like that, working with your chakras, get into your energy bodies. There's actually multiple of them there, but start there. Look at what do you have around you. Typically, you can tell how you're doing by how things are around you. Are things messy around you? Do you have a lot of garbage around you? Or is it nice and clean? And if it's clean, do you spend do you expend far more energy than necessary trying to keep things that clean? Or is it easy? Is it just natural that you just don't have a whole lot of waste around you, or that things are clean because you do them along the way and you don't spend a lot of time like being anxious about what other people are doing or things like that? Like how does the flow of things go around you? And if it's not in a perfect space, like how do you nourish your mind when you see that? When you're like, oh, there's a mess here. Like, do you think, oh crap, I did it again. I'm so messy and horrible and I'm gross and stuff like that? Or do you think, okay, definitely time to check my vibration. What am I been doing? You know, what am I focused on? What am I spending most of my time doing? Things like that, you know? If you go for the first, try to cultivate for the second, you know? And then, you know, likewise, like how are things at work? You know, if work for you is going to a job, like, are there good boundaries? Is it clear there? Do you feel like you have an easy time whenever you go to work, or do you feel resentful and put upon, or like, I gotta go to my job, you know? Like, do you go to your job like that? Like, I gotta go to my job. Or do you go like, fuck yeah, I get to go to my job today? You know, and any job, whether you've been there forever or it's a new job or anything like that, can turn into a fuck yeah, I love my job kind of job. It just depends on what you believe it can be true. But you know, definitely that's a part of what you add to your vibration. If you don't love what you do, and especially if you're in any kind of dynamic where you're trying to suggest you know, that you're trying to build a vibration where it's, you know, love is always the answer kind of thing. Well, if you don't love your job, then you're kind of being a hypocrite, yeah, you know? And you don't have to go that way about it, but you know, maybe consider it. Is that creating a waffly vibration for you? You know, if you're looking out at other people who don't have great boundaries, but then you don't have great boundaries as a parent or with your parents or at your work or when you go out partying and things like that, like you probably got places around you that you're not practicing those things either, and that's becoming part of the nourishment of your vibration, whether it's, you know, nourishing good things or nourishing bad things. Either way, it's important to look at that, you know, and consider what kinds of things that you can bring into your vibration that can nourish it the way you want it to be. You could listen to an audiobook every so often, or read a book, or do things like that that help you learn something new. And sometimes just watch something that just makes you feel good. Maybe an old movie you watched when you were a kid that, you know, wasn't overly scary, didn't have too much cerebral stuff in it. It was just fun. It was just good fun. Like, go back and watch that. You know, what kind of people do you know that you can be around that are generally in a authentically good mood? And if you don't have anybody in your vibration, you don't know of anybody of that, one, how are you nourishing yourself when it comes to going out and meeting new people, putting yourself in new circumstances? And two, if you are being social with people and you're not finding that there's anybody in your vibration, like you could have lots of friends and feel like almost none of them are in a space where they can be that, you know, happy space holder that you would really like in certain moments. Well, maybe it's because you got to do it first, you know. And that's and sometimes that's true, and it changes things in your, you know, in your dynamic, in your tribe, in your community, things like that. And other times it's simply that in your cultivating of the practice of getting there, that you can actually get away from those that are in different vibrations from places you have been, and get to those who are in new vibration, you know, not maybe not new vibrations, but they're much more aligned with where you're going. In any case, it's almost been 40 minutes, so I'm probably going to leave this one here. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions, or, you know, it's always helpful to other people to see other people get down there and be like, yeah, I've been doing this. Like, I've been being careful about what I eat and what I watch and who I talk to and stuff. And I've also been open and socializing and doing things like that. Kind of be the witness to it, the testimony to it, kind of thing. So, you know, that's another good way to look at it too, is how do you nourish yourself when you consider leaving a message? Do you say, no, they wouldn't want to hear that, or people will think that's stupid, or that I'm crazy, or nobody would care about this or that? Or do you go, heck yeah, I heard something in that, and I'm gonna say thanks, or I'm gonna share my story, or I'm gonna add to that this thing that I didn't hear her jabber on about, you know? Consider how you are nourishing yourself. And then, you know, just think about what ways you want to nourish yourself. and take it from there.